Dr. Han wiped sweat from his brow as he stared at the monitor. For 3 nights straight, he hadn't left the basement lab at Seoul National University. His colleagues had gone home hours ago, but he couldn't tear himself away from the strange readings. This can't be right, he muttered, pushing his glasses up. The particle collision data showed energy patterns that defied everything he knew about quantum physics. Dr. Han ran the experiment again. Same result. The particles weren't just colliding. They were somehow communicating, responding to the presence of observers in ways that shouldn't be possible. He reached for his cold coffee when the lab door opened. "You're still here?" Dr. Jin asked, dropping her bag on a nearby chair. Her lab coat was wrinkled from yesterday's work. "Look at this," Dr. Han said, pointing at the screen. "The energy signature changes when we look directly at it." Dr. Jin leaned forward, her eyes widening. "That's not possible." "I've run it 17 times. She pulled up a chair. "Move over." For the next hour, they modified the experiment, changing variables, recalibrating equipment. The results remained consistent. The mysterious energy responded to human presence, growing stronger when they focused their attention on it. "We need to call the team," Dr. Jin said finally. Within days, a small group formed around their discovery. Dr. Park brought in specialized equipment from the university's medical research wing, brainwave monitors that might explain the strange connection between human attention and the energy readings. "It's like nothing we've ever seen," Dr. Park explained as he reviewed the data. "When the subject focuses on the energy field, their brain waves sync with it. The energy responds, growing stronger, more organized." Dr. Han nodded. "The question is, what exactly are we connecting with?" As they expanded their research, they discovered the energy could be directed, even manipulated with sufficient concentration. Small objects could be moved, temperatures changed, and in one startling incident, Dr. Jin managed to alter the molecular structure of water simply by focusing her attention through the energy field they'd created. "We need to go public with this," Dr. Park insisted. After 6 weeks of experiments, Dr. Han disagreed. "Not yet. We barely understand what we're dealing with. Let's bring in more experts first." Unknown to the team, their discovery had already registered far beyond Earth. Aristine, the galaxy. Ancient monitoring stations detected the awakening power. On the planet Kezra, central home of the Galactic Council, alarms that hadn't sounded in 10,000 years suddenly blared to life. Council Elder Toll rushed into the monitoring chamber, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in the flashing lights. "Where is it coming from?" he demanded. The technician's tentacles moved frantically across the control panel. "Outer spiral arm, 3rd planet of a yellow star system." "Classification?" "Pre-FTL civilization, oxygen breathers, carbon-based." Toll's membrane paled. "They shouldn't be capable of accessing the forbidden power. Run a species analysis." Minutes later, the technician called Toll back. "Sir, they're called humans. They evolved on a high-gravity world with unusual atmospheric composition. Their neural patterns are different." "Different how?" "Their brains form connections we haven't seen before. The modeling suggests they might be able to stabilize the energy fields in ways that..." "Impossible," Toll interrupted. "The ancients couldn't control it, and they had 1,000,000 years of advancement over these humans." Back on Earth, the research team had moved their operation to a larger facility. Government officials had taken interest, providing funding and resources while insisting on absolute secrecy. "Try again," Dr. Han encouraged a young researcher named Lee, who sat with electrodes attached to his temples. "Focus on the container." Lee concentrated on the sealed glass box containing a small wooden cube. The energy meters spiked. Slowly, impossibly, the cube rose into the air. "Hold it steady," Dr. Jin whispered. The cube rotated, suspended by nothing. "Doctor." Han checked the readings. "The energy signature is cleaner this time. Lee's getting better at directing it." In the observation room, General Yoon watched with narrowed eyes. "How soon can we scale this up?" he asked Dr. Han later. "Scale it up?" "General, we're still trying to understand what this even is. But the military applications are obvious. Dr. Han shook his head. This isn't a weapon. It's something much more fundamental, possibly a new form of energy that responds to consciousness itself. That night, as Dr. Han reviewed the day's data alone in his office, he noticed something odd. Each time they activated the energy field, a brief pulse traveled outward like a ripple in a pond. But where did the ripple go? He was still pondering this when Dr. Jin burst into his office. Han, the astronomy department just called. There. Are ships entering our solar system, dozens of them. Ships, you mean? Not ours, she said quietly. They just passed Jupiter. Dr. Han felt cold dread wash over him as he realized the ripples had been detected. Whatever they'd awakened, someone out there knew, and they were coming. In the council war chamber, Elder Toll addressed the gathered representatives of 500 worlds. The humans have accessed the forbidden power. The signal is unmistakable. How is this possible? Demanded a crystalline being from the Rigel system. Unknown. But we must act immediately. The last species that wielded this power destroyed 3 neighboring star systems before we could contain them. The council voted unanimously. A fleet was dispatched with clear orders. The humans must abandon their research or Earth would face the consequences. As dawn broke over the research facility, Dr. Han stood at the window watching the sky. Somewhere up there, visitors were coming. Visitors who might not appreciate what humanity had just discovered. The massive ships appeared in the morning sky like dark clouds, hovering silently over major cities worldwide. Seoul, New York, London, Cairo, Sydney, all witnessed the same terrifying sight. Humanity collectively held its breath. Dr. Han stood with his team on the university rooftop, staring upward through binoculars. The vessel above Seoul stretched, nearly 2 kilometers across, its surface shifting with subtle metallic patterns that seemed almost alive. They're not doing anything, Dr. Jin whispered. Just watching. Global communications had descended into chaos. Military forces worldwide were on highest alert, but no one dared fire upon the visitors. News channels broadcast the same images, on repeat while government scrambled to form a unified response. 3 days passed this way. Then without warning, a smaller craft detached from the main vessel above Seoul and descended toward the university campus. They know, Dr. Han said, his voice barely audible. They know exactly where our research is happening. Security forces surrounded the university, but Dr. Han convinced them to hold their fire. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it already. The craft landed in the central courtyard, a sleek, teardrop-shaped vessel that hummed with energy. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then a section of the hull simply dissolved and a figure emerged. The being called itself Kim, though later they learned this was merely an approximation their human minds could process. Its form shifted constantly, like liquid metal flowing, from one shape to another, never quite settling. When it spoke, the words formed directly in their minds. You have awakened what should remain dormant, the being communicated. This cannot continue. Within hours, world leaders had convened an emergency meeting with the alien representative. Dr. Han and his team were flown to a neutral location, a conference center in Switzerland, where the fate of their research would be decided. We represent the Galactic Council, Kim explained to the assembled humans. 5,000 civilizations united in peaceful governance. Your planet has been observed for centuries, marked for eventual contact when you achieved appropriate technological advancement. Then why come now? Asked the Secretary General of the UN. Because you have discovered something dangerous, something forbidden across the galaxy. Dr. Han leaned forward. You mean the energy field responding to consciousness? The alien's form rippled. You do not understand what you have found. The power you've touched destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. It is not meant to be wielded. Screens appeared around the room projecting images that made the humans gasp. 3-dimensional recordings showed planets torn apart, stars collapsing in unnatural ways, entire systems reduced to swirling dust. The ancients discovered this power 2 million of your years ago, Kim continued. They were the first spacefaring race, masters of science and art. They believed they could control it. Dr. Jin studied the images carefully. What exactly is this power? Scientifically speaking, it is fundamental, a force that binds reality together. It responds to conscious intent, allowing manipulation of matter, energy, even space-time. The ancients called it the veil between worlds. General Yoon, representing South Korea's military, spoke up. If it's so dangerous, why didn't you warn us before we discovered it? We did not believe you capable of accessing it, Kim admitted. No, species has accidentally stumbled upon it so early in their development. What the alien didn't say, what the Council had forbidden sharing, was that human brains showed unprecedented compatibility with the power. Council scientists were still analyzing the data, but preliminary findings suggested humans could channel the energy with an efficiency that terrified them. The meeting continued for hours. The Council's position became clear. All research into the power must cease immediately. All data destroyed. All researchers reassigned to conventional projects. Earth would be monitored to ensure compliance. That night in their hotel rooms, Dr. Han's team gathered secretly. They're frightened, Dr. Park observed. Not just concerned, genuinely frightened of what we might do with this discovery. Dr. Jin nodded. Did you notice how they avoided answering my technical questions? There's something they're not telling us. The demonstration videos were enlightening, Dr. Han said thoughtfully. Did you see how the energy fields manifested? Not like our experiments at all. Those civilizations were using brute force approaches. We've been much more precise. What are you suggesting? General Yoon asked. That maybe we understand this power better than they think. That maybe humans interact with it differently. The next morning, world leaders reluctantly agreed to the Council's terms. Publicly, at least. What choice did they have, faced with a unified galactic force capable of destroying Earth? But later that day, as researchers packed up their equipment under alien supervision, Dr. Han made a discovery. While transferring data to the Council's systems, he noticed something in their coding language, references to human neural patterns, and something called resonance amplification. He copied the files secretly before deleting the originals as ordered. 2 weeks later, as alien ships maintained their silent vigil over Earth, a secret meeting took place deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. In a facility built inside an underwater mountain, leaders from major nations gathered. The Council is hiding something crucial, Dr. Han explained, showing his findings. They're terrified specifically of humans wielding this power, not just anyone using it. How can you be sure? Asked the American president. Dr. Jin stepped forward. We've analyzed their data. Human brains process the power differently. Where other species might need massive machinery to achieve effects, we can do it with thought alone. Which means, General Yoon concluded, they're not just protecting us from ourselves, they're protecting themselves from what we might become. The decision was unanimous. On the surface, humanity would comply with the Council's demands. But, in secret facilities around the world, research would continue. The power that had brought aliens to Earth's doorstep might be humanity's greatest discovery, or its final mistake. As Dr. Han left the meeting, he wondered if they were making the right choice. Outside, beneath the watchful eyes of alien ships, people continued their lives unaware that beneath the surface, humanity had just chosen defiance over submission. The underwater facility hummed with activity, hidden 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean's surface. Built inside a dormant underwater volcano, Deep Haven had become humanity's secret fortress of knowledge. Here, far from the Council's watchful censors, Dr. Han and 200 of Earth's brightest minds continued their forbidden work. Power output is holding steady, Dr. Jin announced, monitoring the central chamber where a softly glowing sphere of energy pulsed like a heartbeat. Dr. Han nodded, checking his own readings. 4 months had passed since the Galactic Council's ultimatum. On the surface, humanity appeared to have abandoned all research into the power. Universities had publicly destroyed their data, researchers had been reassigned, and the alien observers seemed satisfied with Earth's compliance. Little did they know that beneath layers of natural rock that blocked their sensors, humans were making breakthroughs daily. "Let's try the communication test again," Dr. Han suggested. Across the facility in a shielded room, Dr. Park sat in meditation posture with sensors attached to his forehead. At Dr. Han's signal, he closed his eyes and focused on the power, shaping it according to the techniques they'd developed. In the central chamber, Jin gasped as the energy sphere pulsed brightly, then reshaped itself into a complex, shifting pattern. "Message received," she said into her microphone. "Clear transmission." Dr. Han checked the distance calculator. 3 kilometers of solid rock, and the signal is perfect. No delay, no degradation. This was just one of their discoveries. The power allowed instantaneous communication across any distance, unaffected by physical barriers. In another section of the facility, researchers had successfully used it to manipulate gravitational fields, creating micro-regions where the laws of physics could be selectively altered. Most promising and frightening was their discovery that human minds could link through the power, sharing thoughts and experiences directly. What once would have seemed like telepathy now had a scientific foundation, though they were proceeding cautiously with these experiments. Meanwhile, on the surface, Lee played his role perfectly. As a designated council observer, the alien had been assigned to monitor the former research team members, who now worked on approved projects at Seoul National University. Lee's true form resembled a tall, slender humanoid with reflective skin that changed colors with his moods. He had studied human culture extensively before this assignment and found them fascinatingly unpredictable. "Your new research on conventional energy sources appears appropriate," Lee noted while visiting Dr. Jin's replacement laboratory. "The council approves of sustainable development." "We're just trying to move forward within the guidelines," replied the lab director, carefully avoiding any mention of their former work. Lee's skin flickered briefly blue, a sign of suspicion his human companions couldn't interpret. Something felt wrong. The humans had surrendered too easily. Species that made contact with the power typically fought harder to maintain access to it, driven by its addictive potential. That evening, in his private quarters, Lee composed a message to the council. "Humans display unusual acceptance of restrictions. Recommend deeper surveillance. Their psychological profiles suggest they should be more resistant to our intervention." Back in Deep Haven, a breakthrough was unfolding. Dr. Han stood before the assembled research team, barely containing his excitement. "We've discovered why the ancients failed," he announced. "The power isn't inherently destructive. It's responsive. It amplifies and manifests the user's subconscious fears and desires." Dr. Jin continued the explanation, displaying complex neural scans. "The ancients approached it with a conquest mindset. They wanted to control, to dominate, and the power magnified those intentions, creating instability. But we're different?" asked one of the younger researchers. "Human brains process emotions differently," Dr. Park explained. "Our evolutionary path created neural structures that can maintain emotional awareness while directing the power. We naturally create balancing patterns that stabilize the energy fields. This discovery changed everything. If humans could use the power safely where other species had failed, it wasn't just a scientific curiosity. It was humanity's greatest asset, in a galaxy that suddenly seemed much more threatening." In the following weeks, they developed practical applications. Small devices that could harness the power began taking shape: communications tools, medical scanners that could heal by redirecting energy, and most importantly, defensive shields that could theoretically protect against any weapon. On the 120th day of their secret research, alarms blared throughout Deep Haven. Dr. Han rushed to the security center where screens showed a council ship hovering directly above their location. "Have they found us?" Dr. Jin asked, voice tight with worry. The security officer shook his head. "I don't think so. They're conducting a standard survey pattern, but they're closer than any ship has come before." Dr. Han made a quick decision. "Initiate blackout protocols, minimal power usage only." For 3 tense days, the facility operated in near darkness as the alien ship cruised overhead. Research continued by handwritten notes and whispered conversations. On the 4th day, the ship finally moved on. "That was too close," Dr. Park said during the emergency council meeting afterward. "They're growing suspicious." General Yoon, who coordinated the military aspects of their project, spoke firmly. "We need to accelerate the defense initiatives. If they discover us now, before we're ready." The unspoken threat hung in the air. Despite their progress, humanity remained desperately outmatched by the Council's technology and numbers. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Lee's report had reached the Council chambers on Kesra. Elder Toll reviewed the findings with growing concern. "Increase surveillance immediately," he ordered. "Deploy deep scanning probes to all major human population centers." Another council member, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline structure, pulsed with concern. "What if they haven't stopped? What if they've simply gone deeper?" "Impossible," Tall replied. "Our technology can detect power usage anywhere on their planet." "Can it?" The crystalline being challenged. "These humans, they're adapting faster than any species we've encountered. Their neural structure allows for innovations our scientists hadn't considered." Toll's membrane darkened with worry. "Then we must prepare for the worst. If they have continued their research, if they develop applications beyond what we've anticipated." "The Council has always maintained peace through technological superiority," his colleague finished. "If humans master the power in their own unique way." Neither needed to complete the thought. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Council faced a species that might not accept their authority, a species that might rewrite the galaxy's power structure entirely. Back on Earth, Dr. Han stood before the glowing sphere, watching it respond to his thoughts. Something new was forming within it, a pattern no one had seen before. The power was evolving, becoming more attuned to human consciousness with each experiment. "What will we do when they discover us?" Dr. Jin asked softly, standing beside him. Dr. Han watched the swirling energies. "We'll be ready. They came expecting to find primitive beings playing with forces beyond their understanding. Instead, they'll find equals," she finished. The power pulsed brightly as if in agreement. The attack came without warning. 4 Council ships descended through the Antarctic storm, their energy weapons cutting through 2 kilometers of ice in seconds. The research outpost below, one of 7 secret facilities worldwide, had barely enough time to trigger emergency protocols before the first blast hit. Dr. Han received the alert in deep haven, his face draining of color as he watched live footage. "They found us." The Antarctic facility had been housing 35 researchers focused on defensive applications of the power. Now they were fighting for their lives as alien troops in sleek environmental suits poured through the breach. "Activate Protocol Sunrise," Dr. Han ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding on the screens. "And get me General Yoon immediately." Around the world, hidden facilities went into lockdown. 8 months of secret research was about to be revealed, ready or not. In orbit above Earth, the Council's flagship received unexpected news. "The humans are broadcasting on all frequencies," reported a communications officer. "They're requesting direct contact with Elder Toll." Aboard the massive vessel, Elder Toll's 4 eyes narrowed. A desperate plea for mercy, no doubt. "Actually, sir," the officer hesitated. "They're proposing a demonstration in the asteroid belt, away from Earth. They say they want to show us something important about the power." Toll considered this. "A trap, perhaps, or a delaying tactic." "They've already evacuated the Antarctic facility," noted his second-in-command. "No casualties on either side. They're not fighting back." "Curious," Toll admitted. "Very well. I will hear them out." 24 hours later, a strange gathering assembled in the space near Mars. 5 enormous Council warships formed a loose semicircle, weapons primed. Before them hovered a single human vessel, small, seemingly primitive, with visible welding marks on its hull. Inside this modest craft, test pilot Sung checked his systems one final time. Behind him, Dr. Park monitored the power core, a spherical chamber where energy pulsed with a soft blue light. All readings nominal, Park reported. The containment field is stable. Sung nodded, taking a deep breath. Starting broadcast. His voice carried across the void to the waiting council ships. This is Earth Vessel Pioneer. Thank you for agreeing to this demonstration. We understand your concerns about our research. Today we hope to show you why those concerns are unnecessary. On the council flagship, Elder Toll watched skeptically. What could they possibly demonstrate with that primitive vessel? His question was soon answered as the human ship began to glow with a familiar energy signature, the unmistakable resonance of the power. But something was different. Where the ancients' use had created chaotic crackling fields, the human vessel emanated smooth, controlled waves. Impossible, whispered a council scientist. The energy harmonics are perfectly stable, Sung's voice came again. We will now demonstrate defensive capabilities. Please target your forward ship's lowest powered weapons at our vessel. After a moment's hesitation, Toll gave the order. A beam of concentrated energy lanced out, only to dissipate harmlessly a meter from the human ship's hull, absorbed by an invisible field. Now medium power, Sung requested calmly. 3 beams struck simultaneously from different vessels. Again, they dispersed before contact. The council scientists worked frantically at their instruments. The power field is adapting to each weapon's frequency, one reported with astonishment. It's learning. Sung's voice remained steady. For our final demonstration, we will show you that the power need not be destructive. With your permission, we will temporarily disable your lead vessel's propulsion system without causing damage. Toll bristled at the audacity, but curiosity won out. Proceed, he ordered. But be warned, any aggressive action will be met with full force. What happened next left the council observers in stunned silence. A gentle pulse emanated from the human ship, washing over the lead warship like a wave. Instantly, all engines went silent. Backup systems failed to respond. The massive vessel hung powerless in space. Your propulsion systems are temporarily offline, Sung explained. The effect will last approximately 5 minutes, after which all functionality will return. We've simply asked the energy patterns in your drive systems to pause their normal functions. No physical damage has occurred. True to his word, 5 minutes later, the warship's systems reactivated perfectly. Engineering teams could find no damage, no explanation for the shutdown beyond the impossible. The energy itself had chosen to stop flowing, then resume. Back on Earth, in a secure conference room, humanity's leaders received the live transmission. Dr. Han watched alongside Dr. Jin and General Yoon as their months of work faced its ultimate test. They're responding, reported the communications officer. Elder Toll's alien visage filled the screen. Your demonstration was unexpected, but it does not change the fundamental danger. The ancients also believed they had mastered the power before it destroyed them. Dr. Han leaned forward. Elder Toll, with respect, we've discovered why the ancients failed. May I show you something? He transmitted the research data they'd prepared, neural scans, energy harmonics, stabilization patterns. The ancients approached the power with dominance in mind. Human consciousness interacts differently. We don't seek to control the power. We work with it, creating natural harmonic patterns that stabilize the energy fields. On the flagship, council scientists pored over the human data. This is remarkable, one admitted reluctantly. They've developed stabilization protocols that our ancestors dismissed as theoretically impossible. Another added, and their neural structures, they naturally dampen the feedback loops that caused cascading failures in previous attempts. Elder Toll remained skeptical. Even if this is true, the potential for misuse remains catastrophic. Jin joined the conversation. That's why we've incorporated fail-safes into every application. The same neural patterns that allow us to use the power safely also let us build in limitations that prevent cascading effects. She demonstrated with additional technical data showing how human-designed power systems automatically shut down when certain emotional states were detected in the user. Anger, fear, aggressive intent. The power responds to consciousness, she explained. We've made that its safety mechanism, not its weakness. In space, Sung waited patiently as the Council ships maintained their positions. Hours passed as the alien leaders debated among themselves, analyzing the human data against their ancient records. Finally, Elder Toll's voice broke the silence. "We will require more extensive proof of these safety mechanisms." The Council remains concerned. It wasn't acceptance, but it wasn't outright rejection either. Sung allowed himself a small smile. "We understand," he replied. "We're prepared to provide any information you need." As the human ship turned back toward Earth, escorted by 3 Council vessels, Sung sent a private message to Deep Haven. "Phase 1 complete. They're listening." Dr. Han received the message with mixed emotions. The initial demonstration had gone better than they'd dared hope, but the hardest part lay ahead. The Council had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years based on technological superiority. Now they faced a species that might have surpassed them in understanding the universe's most powerful force. "What happens now?" Dr. Jin asked quietly. General Yoon answered before Han could. "Now we prepare for either peace or war. The Council has 2 choices: accept us as equals, or try to eliminate what they fear." Dr. Han stared at the data streams flowing across his screen, the beautiful, harmonic patterns of the power as shaped by human minds. "They'll make the right choice," he said with more confidence than he felt. "They have to. The alternative is unthinkable." In orbit, Elder Toll stared at the small human ship with all 4 eyes. For the first time in his 300-year life, he felt something he'd never expected: uncertainty about the Council's place in the galaxy. The Council chamber fell silent as Dr. Han finished speaking. 5,000 representatives from across the galaxy stared at the small human delegation, standing in the center of the vast amphitheater. Some with multiple eyes, others with no visible eyes at all. Some breathed methane, others existed as energy, patterns within containment fields. Yet all shared the same expression: stunned disbelief. Dr. Han stood calmly beside Ambassador Choi, Dr. Jin, and General Yoon. They had traveled for 3 weeks aboard a Council vessel to reach Kezra, the ancient homeworld of the galaxy's governing body. Now, everything hinged on this moment. Elder Toll broke the silence. "You expect us to believe that humans, a species that hasn't even colonized its own solar system, have solved problems that eluded the ancients themselves?" "We don't claim greater intelligence," Dr. Han replied, his voice carrying clearly through the translator fields. "Only a different perspective. The evidence speaks for itself." Behind him, a demonstration sphere pulsed with power, maintained in perfect stability by Dr. Jin's focused attention. For 10 hours straight, she had held the energy in balance while Council scientists monitored for any fluctuations. There had been none. A representative from the Rigel system rose, its crystalline body catching the light. "The data is compelling. Their neural structures interact with the power in ways fundamentally different from any species we've studied." "Different doesn't mean safe," countered another Council member. "The ancients believed they had mastered the power too." Ambassador Choi stepped forward. "We understand your caution. That's why we've come with a proposal, not demands." She gestured, and holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing technical specifications for what the humans called harmony protocols. "We've developed methods to use the power safely, methods that incorporate emotional feedback loops as safety mechanisms. We're offering to share this knowledge freely, under whatever oversight the Council deems necessary." Elder Toll's membrane rippled with skepticism. "And why would you share such advantage?" General Yoon answered this time. "Because we recognize the power's potential, both beneficial and destructive. We believe it belongs to all sentient life, not just humans." A murmur ran through the assembly. This was unprecedented. Most species guarded their technological advantages jealously, particularly ones that offered such strategic importance. The debate raged for days. Council scientists confirmed what the humans claimed. Their brains processed the power differently, creating naturally stable patterns where other species produced chaos. Something in their evolutionary path had created minds uniquely suited to this fundamental force. On the 4th day, A delegation of council members approached Dr. Han privately. "There is something we must show you," said the eldest. A being so ancient its true form had been forgotten, now existing within a mechanical shell. Something few outside the inner council have seen. They led the humans deep beneath the council chambers, down ancient tunnels that predated the council itself. Finally, they entered a vast cavern where a single object floated in suspended animation, a crystalline structure that pulsed faintly with familiar energy. "The last surviving ancient," explained their guide. "In stasis for over 2 million years. Doctor," Han approached cautiously. "I thought they were extinct." "Nearly. This one placed itself in stasis after witnessing the destruction its people caused. It has communicated with us only rarely over the millennia, offering warnings about the power." Dr. Jin studied the readings on her scanner. "Its consciousness is still active? In a limited way. We believe it might respond to you." When Dr. Han hesitantly extended his thoughts toward the ancient being, something extraordinary happened. The crystal flared brightly and a voice spoke directly into all their minds. "At last, you have come." The humans exchanged shocked glances. "You were expecting us?" Dr. Han asked. "Not you specifically, but ones like you. We saw the possibility, long ago, that a species might evolve with the neural architecture to stabilize the power. We seeded many worlds with potential, hoping at least one would develop as needed." The revelation stunned everyone present. "You created humans?" Ambassador Choi asked. "No, we merely influenced certain evolutionary paths on promising worlds. Yours was one of 27, the only success, it seems." Council members looked at each other in shock. This revelation upended everything they thought they knew about their own history. The ancient continued. "What my people failed to understand was balance. We sought control, dominance. The power requires partnership, harmony. Your minds evolved to create this naturally." "Why tell us this now?" Dr. Han asked. "Because you stand at a crossroads. You can repeat our mistakes, use the power to dominate. Or, you can teach others the path of balance." The ancient's presence faded, returning to its semi-dormant state, leaving humans and council members alike in stunned silence. When they returned to the council chambers, everything had changed. The debate shifted from whether humans should be allowed to use the power to how their knowledge could be safely shared throughout the galaxy. Not everyone welcomed this new reality. Some council factions feared the change in power dynamics. Others worried about cultural contamination from increased contact with humans. A small but vocal minority advocated for the complete isolation of Earth, or worse. On the final day of deliberations, Elder Toll addressed the assembly. "For 10,000 years, the Council has maintained peace through strict control of dangerous technologies. Now we face a choice: continue this path or embrace a new understanding." He turned to the human delegation. "Your demonstration of the harmony protocols is undeniable. But how can we trust your species with such influence? You who have fought wars over resources, ideology, territory." Dr. Han stepped forward. "Our history is indeed filled with conflict. We don't deny this. But consider, perhaps it is precisely because we understand darkness that we value light so deeply." He gestured toward the power sphere, still pulsing steadily. "The power responds to consciousness. Its stability reflects the user's internal state. We've learned to maintain balance, not because we're perfect beings, but because we've faced our imperfections." Dr. Jin joined him. "Our research confirms what the ancient told us. The power isn't just an energy source, it's a mirror. The ancients saw domination reflected back at them. We choose to see harmony instead." The vote, when it came, was narrow, but decisive. The council would establish a new framework, a collaborative approach where humans would share their understanding of the power while operating under careful oversight. 6 months later, the first joint research facility opened. In Earth's orbit, council scientists worked alongside humans, learning the mental techniques that allowed safe manipulation of the power. Human medical researchers collaborated with alien biologists to develop healing applications that worked across species. Doctor. Han stood at the observation window, watching Earth rotate slowly below. Beside him, Elder Toll's form shifted thoughtfully. I must admit, the council leader said, I did not expect this outcome when our ships first detected your experiments. Nor did we, Dr. Han acknowledged. We were simply seeking knowledge. And found the key to changing the galaxy instead. In the laboratory behind them, Dr. Jin was guiding a group of alien scientists through basic stabilization techniques. Some struggled. Their minds evolved for different purposes. Others showed surprising aptitude. The most remarkable discovery, Dr. Han said quietly, wasn't the power itself. It was learning that consciousness shapes reality more directly than we ever imagined. Toll's membrane rippled, the equivalent of a thoughtful nod. My people believed technology was the path to advancement. Perhaps we were looking in the wrong direction all along. Below them, the first power-enhanced ships were preparing for their maiden voyages. Unlike conventional vessels, these ships could cross vast distances by folding space itself, not tearing through it, but gently reshaping it through harmonic resonance. There will be challenges ahead, Dr. Han acknowledged. Not everyone welcomes this change. Change always faces resistance, Toll agreed. But the path is set. Your species has given the galaxy something we never expected to find. A new beginning. As night fell over Earth, lights twinkled across the planet's surface. People looked up at the stars with new understanding. They were no longer alone, no longer isolated. Humanity had found its place in the vastness of space, not as conquerors or subjects, but as teachers. The power that had once threatened to destroy civilizations now promised to unite them. And in research centers across Earth, a new generation prepared to carry this knowledge outward, guided by the simple truth Dr. Han had discovered in that first laboratory experiment. The universe doesn't respond to force. It responds to harmony.